Hey, Kansas Gun community. Good to see you all this evening. And some of you haven't joined us yet, but you will. It's okay. We haven't been around for the last couple of months actually doing a live fire, but tonight we're going to do a live fire segment with Brian Savage of Mad Hatter Medical. And really, it's something we haven't discussed here, that much, but it's a very, very, very important subject, especially when we're around guns. So I want to let him introduce himself and just, Brian, tell us, kind of your background and just a little bio work, man.
All right. Well, my name is Brian Savage. I am been an Army medic for almost 11 years now. That sounds horrible when I say it out loud. That's so long in the Army. Been on a few deployments. The last one, I was able to be a flight medic, flying around in Blackhawks, treating people in the air, which was probably the coolest experience I've ever had in my life. A completely different way to do treatment than anything else I've experienced. I've been a police officer. I've driven ambulances here in Manhattan, Kansas, for Riley County EMS before. And I'm almost about to finish my first book. Kind of do a little bit of everything. So that's about it. Started Mad Hatter Medical over a year ago now. Doing classes, trying to get awareness built about the necessity for this, especially in the gun community.
Now, tell us about Mad Hatter. Where did it come from?
It's not as cool a story as it might seem. The name just kind of rung. Came from Alice in Wonderland, as many of you know. But one day I had been talking with my wife a little bit about doing something with what I learned as a medic and teaching people about it. It's super important. And I think we were watching a movie, might have been Alice in Wonderland, and I was like, Mad Hatter Medical. Man, that could be a name for a company. And so I decided I was going to make it the name for the company. So it's kind of not as exciting as it might seem.
Well, it is cool though. It has a ring to it, so I think people will remember it.
I like that.
Yeah, and I think one of the things. What do you think is one of the things really, as you approach this in the gun community, or maybe let me ask it this way: why is it that the gun community forgets medical? What's missing? What's the gap?
I mean, I honestly think the biggest reason medical is left out, guys go to the range every single month, every single week sometimes, but they've never, ever, learned about stopping bleeding. I think it's left out because it's a specialty skill. It's not something that everyday people do on a regular basis, or, if ever. It's utilized in an emergency, which rarely happens. A lot of people are overconfident. That's always a big one too. They're overconfident with their skills. They're overconfident with their safety. And they don't think that they would ever, need to know how to put on a tourniquet or need to know how to put on a bandage. So that's also a big part of it. But I think the main part is just specialized skills, and the overconfidence in themselves, the overconfidence in, an emergency service being able to get to them in a timely manner.
And what are now, with Mad Hatter, what kind of services do you offer for folks out there?
Yeah, so we offer Stop the Bleed courses. You get a cert for every course that you take with Mad Hatter that will certify you in a first aid Stop the Bleed sense. We offer classes for concealed carry, people who conceal carry. We offer classes for hunters. We offer active shooter response classes as well. So I draw on my police officer background, my emergency medical service background, and then the skills I learned as an Army medic to bring that all together and offer, a wider array of active shooter response type classes for businesses, for schools. and even life-saving skills for law enforcement. As a police officer, that was a big part of the training that, as a medic in the Army, I know that's necessary for anyone who carries a gun. But a lot of police departments, especially the smaller ones that are scared of that cost of having someone train and the equipment necessary, they don't always think about that either. So I offer classes for pretty much every walk of life, everyone. If you carry a gun, if you believe you're going to be around guns, if you're a police officer, anything like that, like I offer a class to teach you how to save your life if the worst case scenario happens.
And you've done some special things with churches, is that right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we offer a free 4-hour block of instruction for security teams at churches, for usher teams, for pastors, for people that work at churches. Last year, it kind of started off this bad trend of places of worship being targeted. The place of peace in our community being targeted by evil individuals, knowing that it's less likely for someone to be carrying a gun there, they target it. So I offer that for free. I do walk around a couple hours, security inspection to look at physical security, to look at just the overall, structure of how they conduct services, and then a free 4-hour block of instruction on emergency first aid.
Now, also, and then just in full disclosure, I was in ministry and still am, and I've been in ministry since 1995. And, some of the things that we've dealt with have been, just a simple, we've had broken legs with kids, or we've had stroke victims on our premises on the campus. Do you talk about those type of things with the churches as well?
Absolutely. Well, the training is catered towards the active shooter response. We do go into creating that emergency action plan, which should be the cornerstone of any usher team or security team, because even if someone has a diabetic issue, someone has a heart attack, anything like that, just knowing what each person is going to do, knowing that you're going to have someone right by the door to make sure that the people who are coming here who've never been to your church before know exactly where to go. Thinking about stuff like, it's hard to carry a litter out of the back of an ambulance upstairs. It really is. Yeah. I've done it before. It's not fun. So being able to get people around to maybe the handicap ramp so they can get their rolling stretcher through the handicap ramp, things that about the building that emergency workers don't know about the building, and having those people that are going to be stationed at all these key points, having who's going to medically respond, so who's going to take charge. And you never want to, attack somebody basically with a giant group of everybody that wants to help. You want to have certain key people that know that they're going to help, certain key people that are going to keep everybody else away that wants to help, and then your other key people that are going to coordinate with your emergency response. So we build that plan, and that plan, regardless of if it's an active shooter or if it's a medical emergency, will work. It's just, different situation.
I take it Rick Tillery. He says hi.
Oh, yeah. That's a good buddy of mine. What's up, Rick?
Something else within the and I think of those things that are not just necessarily stop the bleed type instances, because I'm personally a diabetic, and so just kind of segueing onto different things. What are some things that you can think of that maybe people, they may carry a tourniquet, and they well, let's just say, what do you need to have? And we'll move from one thing to the next. Yeah. What is necessarily in the home? And then let's move on into the vehicle. And then let's move on to the person, on your person. What are some of the needs that you think people should be carrying around?
Yeah. So I like that you did that home, vehicle, person. It makes a lot of sense to do it that way, because in your home, stationary, larger space, you got a closet, you're able to carry a lot more. You have a lot more. Not specifically towards medical, but everybody should have some form of a go bag at home. And that go bag should be ready to go in case you need to get out of there. Any emergency situation, you go to your go bag. In terms of medical for your go bag, some of the things people don't think about is having a nice supply of things like Tylenol, things like ibuprofen, some of these basic medications that, you know, you have a bottle of in your cabinet, but if you really need to get somewhere, you really need to get out of there, are you going to take all those bottles and dump it in your bag and leave? Probably going to forget, but some of those things can make bad situations a little bit more comfortable. The combination of taking ibuprofen and Tylenol is actually one of the strongest painkillers you can take. It's stronger than morphine. So in terms of the pain-killing power, Tylenol and ibuprofen together do better than morphine. And you don't get all the side effects of the lower respirations, lower heart rate, and falling asleep, getting sick, stuff like that. I'm not a doctor. I'm not, you know, telling anybody they should mix all their medications together to get stronger forms of the medication. But in my experience, that's been the case. For your home bag, you want to have at least 2 tourniquets per person in your family. You want to have a large bandage, so like a 6-inch trauma bandage and a 4-inch trauma bandage per person in your family. You want 2 chest seals, which are these occlusive stick-on seals that go over bullet wounds in the chest and the abdomen. You want 2 per person. And then things that you can never have enough of: ACE wraps, gauze. You can do so much with ACE wrap, and you can do so much with gauze. You can improvise tourniquets out of gauze and ACE wrap. You'll need a windlass, so something, you know, hard that won't break to twist. But with an ACE wrap or gauze, you can make a tourniquet if you need one. So I have tons of gauze and tons of ACE wraps everywhere in my little stash at home. But for the car, you know, obviously you're not going to have this huge medical bag with you in a car. It's going to be a little bit of a step down, a little bit smaller. But in general, for the, you know, number of people that travel in your car, you want to have 2 tourniquets per person, 2 bandages per person, 2 occlusive dressings per person, and then as much gauze and ACE wrap as you can carry. Trauma shears is always a good one. You can cut through pretty much everything with trauma shears. For fun, we used to see just exactly what we could get cut with trauma shears. But trauma shears is a big one. Some sort of seatbelt cutter, a glass breaker. Things like that are extremely important for your vehicle, because it's a different survival scenario in your vehicle. Something in a vehicle a lot of people don't think of is emergency blankets. There's this thing called the triad of death. You have coagulopathy, acidosis, and hypothermia. It's called the triad of death for a reason, and hypothermia is one of the 3 parts of it for a reason. You can do a lot of good for someone that's been in a traumatic situation, just getting, you know, as warm as possible, as quickly as possible. Yeah. And an emergency blanket, I think you can get them like in packs of 10 on Amazon for like $5. So that's something really easy you can keep in your car, really important. You combine that with a regular blanket, and you have a nice, warm, and watertight, you know, type covering for someone. So that's also extremely important. And then on your person, you want enough to treat yourself in case something happens. So what I carry, I have a little ankle kit that I carry when I'm not in uniform. When I'm in uniform, I have a kit in my backpack that goes with me everywhere. But in my ankle kit, I have a bandage, I have tape, I have an occlusive, and I have 2 tourniquets. That's what goes in my ankle kit. It sounds like a lot, but with the ankle kit, I did a review on it on Mad Hatter Medical on the Facebook page. It's a really great kit. Fits really well under my jeans. Unless you're wearing skinny jeans, probably not going to fit under there. But it fits really well. It works really well, and that's what I carry on my person.
What company makes that? The one that you have on your ankle?
That's the Ready Essentials. Ready Essentials.
Hey, got a question here from Michael Lynch, and he asks, "Are you a paramedic?"
I have left my paramedic license lapse. I was a medic when I was a flight medic in Afghanistan. So I'm not a paramedic right now.
Okay. So, and then Stephen Lodwig asks, what would you estimate an efficient go bag to cost? That's a wide open question.
It all depends on the person, you know. Any go bag can be a go bag as long as you have the right contents. That's one of the big things. I never, you know, recommend getting a kit, a pre-built bag. I don't recommend it. One, because people buy those pre-built bags, they never open the pre. What ends up happening is they just get a pre-built bag. They say, I'm good now, I got my bag, and then they leave it somewhere. So any sort of backpack that you have that has 2 straps that go over your shoulders that you can wear on your back is going to work. Something secure. I like waterproof if you can find something waterproof. But it's going to depend on the situation. It's going to depend on you, and it's going to depend on what you're using it for. As long as you have those necessities like the bandages, the tourniquets, the gauze, you can use pretty much any bag. Even if you're on a budget, best thing you can do, go down to Goodwill, a backpack bin full of backpacks for like $3. Get the ugliest one you can find, and then, you know, spend the rest of the money on getting the stuff that goes in it.
You know, and then that's a great point. And there's some cheap stuff at Walmart even for bags. But one of the things that I wanted to go back asking, if you're a paramedic, you are still active duty, and
yes.
And so as far as the military goes, in fact, you're going down to do some training, and I'm not going to disclose unless you want to where that's at. 4 individuals. Well, I'll let you just tell that part of it.
So Army Flight Medics, which is the last training I received, the last deployment I went on, I was an Army Flight Medic. We do everything a paramedic can do. The difference being we give blood in flight, we give plasma in flight, we give reconstituted plasma. We do a lot of that as well. We just don't have the civilian cert. The Army didn't recognize it. The Army is now changing to where it is required to get your critical care paramedic to be a flight medic, but it wasn't the case. We did a 2-week training down in, or I guess up from Kansas, in Fort Rush University in Chicago. We got all of the certifications, our ACLS, our ITLS, our PALS, everything like that. Everything that goes into the paramedic cert, just not the cert. Which is unfortunate, but it was still really good training. Really loved it. And we did open heart surgery there. I can't say on who or anything like that, but we got to help with that. That was a lot of fun.
So just I wanted to alleviate any consternation by folks that Brian doesn't know what he's talking about. Right. He does know what he's talking about.
Army logic, exactly.
Yeah. In your experience too, you know, being deployed, you see, for the most part, gunshot wounds. What does it mean to stop the bleed? I mean, in the large sense, and in the smaller sense too, I guess. When you say stop the bleed, what do we mean?
I mean, stop the bleed is just like it says. It's completely occluding blood. You're stopping the blood from coming out of the body. You only have so much. Your body doesn't produce it that fast, so stopping it as quickly as possible is absolutely important. So using the tourniquets on your extremities to occlude any distal pulses is usually the measure that we use. Now, in Afghanistan, guy has his arm blown off. I can't check his pulse, but the Army standard is to stop the bleeding once you see the bleeding is stopped once you see the bright red squirting blood has stopped. That is stop the bleed. Chest wounds and stuff like that, you're gonna use gauze, wipe away the blood, and apply your occlusive dressings. and then reassess and do what you need to for any, lung damage. But in terms of what everyone considers stop the bleed, it's the extremity arterial bleeding.
And this put it on a, like a civilian basis here. For instance, somebody works in an environment where, whether it's at an elevator for that matter, or, they're around augers and all this type of thing. And my dad worked for Goodyear for 36 years.
Okay.
And saw several people's arms. He was on the safety team taken off. That's just to be blunt.
Yeah.
But and they were trained, in those type of reaction scenarios. And so, it isn't just getting shot or being blown up, with a bomb. In the civilian world, there is legitimate context for stop the bleed. And just for context, how many pints of blood or how much blood do we have in our body?
5 to 6 liters.
So how much is that? Is that in like rational? I mean, how could we use an illustration?
So if you've ever spilled like a 2-liter bottle of soda on the floor, like the whole thing, if you just dumped it out, that would be roughly a third of your blood. And
at that point in time, where's a person at in shock level and all that type of thing?
Every person's different. Some people, especially those with great fitness, can actually withstand losing more blood simply because they've trained their bodies to work in that anaerobic level. Anaerobic being like the cardio where you're running to the point where your body cannot bring in enough oxygen. You end up working on an anaerobic level. So if you trained yourself well that way, you are able to, fight some of those, some of the symptoms of losing blood. But for someone who loses 2 liters of blood, you're going to look flush. Your skin's going to be cool and clammy. You might start getting a little bluing or cyanosis around the mouth and the fingertips. And you're probably going to be in and out of it, confused, maybe a sense of impending doom as well. You're just going to feel bad. It's hard to say that for every single person. I've had people that have lost that much blood who are sitting there completely fine, talking to me like normal. Which I had a guy that I had him hooked up to the EKG monitor, just measuring heart rate and stuff, and he was telling me all about the firefight he was just in, and his heart rate was completely normal. Wasn't on any meds or anything, been shot twice, and just sitting there completely fine. They make those SF guys out of sterner stuff than most, but and then I've also had the guys that small cut on their arm and they completely pass out. It's hard to say. Everybody reacts differently, but in general, cool clammy skin and that cyanosis, as well as losing consciousness or at least being out of it, it's going to be some of the main signs.
Now we've talked about carrying tourniquets and bandages, gauze. I have for object lesson purposes. Some of you may recognize what this is. It is a CAT, C-A-T, CAT Combat Action Tourniquet, and this is the actual one from CAT. And then I also have in here something I carry daily, and that is a RATS tourniquet. I don't know if you all can see that. Let me click on. Hang on just one second. There we go. I'll lock on there. I carry a RATS tourniquet daily. I also carry this daily. So, which of these or more do you recommend we carry?
So, I recommend 2 tourniquets of any type besides a few. So it's easier to exclude the number of tourniquets that I don't recommend. I will say that the CAT tourniquet is a great choice. It's a little bit more complicated. I absolutely recommend getting training if you're going to use a CAT tourniquet. A CAT tourniquet is not something you just pull out of the package and you immediately know how to use. That is something you need to be trained on. If you do it wrong, the CAT just will not work at all. Right? The Velcro gets caught up quite a bit if you're not doing it right. If you don't get tight enough before you start twisting the tourniquet, it does not work. So if you're going to use a cat, you need to have training. I like the rats. There's a lot of people that don't like the rats. I've heard both sides. I've looked at the studies. I've done lots of research. I like the rats. The rats, if I got shot in the arm and I had to rely on somebody else to put a tourniquet on, no matter who it was, I could get them to understand the concept of the rat's tourniquet in a few minutes. Michael Lynch, the rat, has not been endorsed by the TCCC committee yet. That is one of the big points that people make when I bring up the rats, is that it has not yet. But it is actually still pretty widely used in the SOF community right now. The last few case studies I read specifically were from Special Forces missions utilizing both rat and cat tourniquets. The cat and a rat have been evaluated side by side, and both of them were 100% effective in the studies. Now, obviously, the studies are a little bit different story than real life, but all we have are the studies to go off of in terms of the rat and the cat. But the rat is a very simple concept in terms of a tourniquet. You just got to pull it tight.
One of the things, one of the reasons why I carry a rat's tourniquet is not only because it was endorsed by some SF guys, but and of course actually made by Green Beret or invented by Green Berets. But I'm around a lot of kids, and I don't know if if you've ever tried to apply a cat tourniquet to a child who is under the age of 5 to an extremity. Good luck. In my opinion, this is easier to apply. That's one of the main reasons why I carry it. So, and
with children, it's pretty easy to hold pressure.
Yeah.
But in that active shooter situation, you're not going to be able to hold pressure. So you definitely need at least an option, a hands-free option to where you can set it and forget it. They do have a child's cats. Thanks, Rick.
I didn't know that. Wow.
Must be pretty new. Must be pretty new. I haven't actually seen that one yet, but I'm gonna have to check that out for sure.
Yeah. Thanks, Rick.
But I've also treated working dogs in Afghanistan. That's one of the things we did. We did a ton of classes on, and the bomb sniffing dogs as well as the attack dogs and stuff like that. And the rat works much better on a dog lamb than a cat does, which I never put a tourniquet on a dog. They're pretty easy to hold distal pressure, but if I needed to, I would probably use the rats.
Another thing that we haven't mentioned yet, but I'm going to ask you about is this right here. I carry nitrile gloves with me anyhow. Yeah, because I don't want to get anybody's bloodborne pathogens. Is that a good idea or a bad idea?
It is a good idea as long as you don't let it slow you down in putting on a tourniquet. I will say that. At the point at which you need to put on a tourniquet, putting on gloves might be an added expensive time that you don't want to lose. The SWAT, I love the SWAT T. I carry a SWAT T as well. They just came out with the SWAT T Wide recently. Great tourniquet. It's also the SWAT T and the cat are the TCCC recommended ones. So it is a good tourniquet. Thank you, Michael.
And what about an Israeli bandage?
Israeli bandages? I do like those. They have a plastic not a windlass, but a plastic closure bar and a plastic pressure bar. Some of the issues I have with those in terms of using them is that when you're pulling these bandages down tight, you can't tear them on those specific bars that you're using to get the Israeli bandage tight. But I've never had an issue with it affecting how it works. So Israeli bandages, North American Rescue, who created the cat, also have emergency trauma dressings that they use, and those have Velcro on them. Any sort of dressing that you're going to use, tourniquet or otherwise, I recommend taping up with medical tape afterwards to secure it, especially if you're going to move people around quickly. But that is a time-sensitive thing and a situation-sensitive thing. So if if you don't have the time and it's not the right situation, like you're being actively shot at, save the tape for later. Just get out of there.
Yeah. Now thinking about again trying to go to the civilian world a little bit, because that's who we deal with mainly.
Right.
You know, what if you go to a range, and I'm on the board of a range here in the area, and unfortunately, there's a lot of RSOs that are not trained in first aid or in TCCs or TCCC type stuff. And here they've got a line of people of 15, guys on the line, guys and gals on the line shooting. And let's just say, for instance, what happened to one of my relatives, literally a gun blew up in his face. And he still to this day has shrapnel in his face.
Wow.
What would you say to those RSOs right now that are preparing to go? And I know one of them is actually watching right now, because I can see his name on here. What would you say to those RSOs about getting trained?
I'd say that it's an absolute must. It's an absolute must. To think that you're going to spend even more of your time now around weapons, around guns in particular, and think that nothing will happen is, I don't want to call people stupid, but it is pretty ridiculous to think that there's never going to be an accident. You have to prepare for the worst case scenario. And as the RSO, every single person on that range, when something bad happens to every single person on the range, is going to look to you to fix the situation, or at least know what to do to, make the situation better. It is absolutely the responsibility of a range safety officer to make sure that everybody is safe in every single way. But when that situation happens, and sometimes like that, a gun blew up, that's absolutely nobody's fault on the range. But someone got hurt, you're still in charge of the range. You're still the range safety officer. Getting trained to know, a little bit about what to do it's not going to hurt you, and it's probably going to save someone's life eventually.
I'll give a shout out to Todd Schmidt. He's watching right now, and Todd, I love you, buddy. He's one of our RSOs out at Fancy Creek Range. He's actually, I believe you're not active duty anymore. He was active duty military. So, but
individual first aid kit, I like that.
That's IFAC.
Those are good kits.
IFAC.
Yeah, and luckily, since you said your CLS has expired a year, hey, it's still good. It's the same information now. I train all the guys in CLS on a regular basis. It's part of what I do full time for my my job. So if you're just a year expired, you still got good information. I would just say make sure you're practicing for sure.
Yeah. Hey, pass the word along, Todd. Pass the word along to the rest of them, man. But that's just something, and my cousin had that happen, and I can't imagine. I've had other friends that have had handguns blow up in their hands, and have major lacerations, to their hands.
Yeah, a lot of people don't realize you have a large artery that runs right up here into your thumb. I had a relative actually that was fishing. He was fishing. He was cleaning a fish, slipped with the very sharp knife and severed his radial artery in his wrist. He was there with his son. He didn't have anybody else out there. He didn't have a tourniquet. So he drove to the hospital with the injured hand on the steering wheel and his other hand pinching that artery off. I believe his son was 5 at the time. So his son couldn't hold pressure. He was 5 years old. He's obviously trying to be brave for his son, but it's even in a situation like that, you're at home, and one of the my dad was a paramedic at Riley County EMS long before I was, and he always talked about a call that he ran. I think a lady pruning her hedge bushes outside, cut herself with the shears. And he said she called in 911 saying that there was, she had a lot of bleeding, And he remembers showing up, and she's sitting on the couch with a towel on her wrist, and everything seems fine. There's no blood soaking through the towel, so he's, overconfident. He removes the towel, and it just starts squirting all the way to the ceiling.
Oh my gosh!
Just everywhere, all over the living room. He didn't realize that she had come through the back door. So when he gone through the back door to exit the house, it was just covered in blood.
Golly.
So I mean, it's just simple stuff like that you don't think about, something going wrong, but it could, and it's not going to hurt you to be a little bit more prepared, because I'd rather have the skill and not need it than need it and not have that skill.
Not have it. That's right. Todd, I'll say something to the board about it, man. You have my word. So he's one of our RSOs there. Maybe we can get Brian to come out and train our crew of RSOs.
Absolutely, it'd be fun.
But I like to bring it into the civilian realm. Those type of things, bring it down to the civilian realm, the study, and to the realistic level. And now we forget it. We totally forget about, and we think, I don't need that. I'm tough. Blah blah blah. And then you catch yourself, and that's the thing. A lot of people think about the gunshot, but they don't think about the knife attack.
Right.
And knives, and I've been in the instruction realm and stuff, and have been through several classes, of course. But that's the one thing I lack in some of my training is some empty-handed skills that I'd like to learn. Mm-hmm. But when you get in a knife fight, from what I hear, never been in one, and hope never to be in one. But
yeah.
That can be nasty. I mean, nasty, from what I hear.
Absolutely. And the first rule in the police academy, when we were learning our open hand defense, the first rule was you're going to get cut. If for some reason you get involved with someone with a knife and you either can't shoot them, or you for some reason don't have your gun, then you're going to get cut. That's just the name of the game. That's the first rule of knife fighting, is you're going to get cut. Michael, I do subscribe to the Journal of Special Operations Medicine. Great publication. But knives are they can be much worse in terms of severing an artery than a bullet can. A lot can happen with a bullet, but a knife strike across an artery is extremely bad. Yeah.
So, excuse me, I'm getting over.
I believe you, Rick.
The three is Rick. I'm assuming he might be in law enforcement. I don't know.
Yes.
Yes. I won't. Don't want to out him there, but that's something that truly, I mean, with the criminal element, they look for the cheapest thing.
Yep.
And man, you can pick up a $5 knife or a $3 knife or make one, just like Rick is pointing out,
Yep.
and start slicing and dicing, and you're in bad doo-doo, man.
China is it's a communist state. That's what it is. Yeah. I know, it's getting better and they're whatever, but guns aren't allowed in China. So what do people use? They use knives. They use meat cleavers. There was an attack at an elementary school. Don't remember how long ago. A couple years ago, the guy used a meat cleaver, attacked a bunch of kids. But it could happen, and just being ready for it.
So being prepared. I mean, to go back for some of those who just joined us, I know the Big Al and some others have just joined us here. Big Al he did say here, I like this statement: a knife fight is a short fight, and
absolutely,
I would agree there. And theoretically, but just to go back, we discussed in the home, in the car, and on our person. Go back to on our person for those who are just joining us. What do you carry on your person, and what do you suggest folks carry on their person?
Absolutely. Michael, you are absolutely right. The situation in London outlawed, firearms. Everyone now carries a knife. They outlawed all the knives. Guess what? People still carry knives. But on your person, you're going to want at least 2 tourniquets. You're going to want at least 1 bandage, or you're going to get Ace Wrap and gauze. So a bandage or Ace Wrap and gauze. And then you're going to want 1 or 2 chest seals. 1 or 2 chest seals. Now, if you carry a roll of tape, I will say that you can eliminate the chest seals, because with that tape and your tourniquets, the packaging from your bandages, you can actually make the chest seals with the medical tape. So you can eliminate the chest seals if you bring tape. But 2 tourniquets is an absolutely must. Absolutely must. Because what's going to end up happening in these situations, a lot of times, not just one, but a couple people get hurt. And you're going to want to help. The people in this group, or people that I assume, are going to want to help. So if you have 2 tourniquets, you might be able to treat yourself and still help somebody. Because in the military, whenever somebody gets hurt, we don't use our individual first aid kit. We use the person who got hurt, their individual first aid kit. Because in the worst case scenario, they get hurt and then suddenly I get hurt. Well, if I use my tourniquet already, guess what I don't have? I don't have a tourniquet. So I wish that I could just push that information into absolutely everybody's brain and be like, everybody in the world needs to carry a tourniquet on them at all times. But unfortunately, I can't. So carrying an extra tourniquet on yourself for using as well as on yourself as well as somebody else does help.
I don't know if you've been indoctrinated with the 2 is 1 and 1 is none type mentality.
Yep. I see that.
That's where I come from. My wife thinks, why do you carry all these? Why do you have them in every bag? And what? I'm like, babe, 2 is 1, 1 is none. And I carry, in fact, I have it with me. I carry an everyday, just an everyday bag that I carry with me, an EDC bag, because of my diabetes and so on and so forth. But I also carry in the car. I carry with me. Let me lock on here on the screen. A simple little bag that you can get for like $20-some, and it is an NC Star bag. And I have this filled with a blowout kit and tourniquets and gauze. Like you said, I have gauze out the wazoo. I have the boo-boo kit. Another thing. And I just carry a simple bag with me. Trash bags, different things like that. A lot of pressure bandages. And then something that you mentioned earlier that people think, I don't have the money to afford those. And I'll show you what I have in here. And that's trauma shears. If nothing else, and I don't know, maybe you don't recommend them. If nothing else, you can go to, I believe, Harbor Freight and pick up some.
Oh yeah,
if you don't want to pay Amazon, I don't know.
So I got a bunch on Amazon, to fill all the kits part of my business, I built the kits, so I call it testing materials. So I bought 20 on Amazon for $20, and I put them through the ringer because obviously, $1 per turn $1 per. I want to make sure they work well and put them through the ringer and they're all right.
Yeah.
Free with coupon from Harbor Freight.
Oh, okay. Gotcha. Thanks, Big Al. I wanted to, sorry, I locked on myself here, and there we go. So what are some products you do offer, a whole set of products. Yeah. If somebody goes to your Facebook page, which is Mad Hatter Medical.
Yep, Mad Hatter, you can do that at Mad Hatter Med, or just search Mad Hatter Medical on the search bar.
And you can actually shop right there on your own Facebook page.
Yep, so there's a shop.
What kind of stuff you got?
We have the Doc Box. So the Doc Box is like our a Moscow kit of sorts. It comes in an old Bradley ammo can that I sanded them down. They're Army surplus. Sanded them down, repainted them. You can treat like 20 people with them. Yep, Mad Hatter Med. Let's see.
Should be in the description, or I think it is,
But the Doc Box is the Moscow kit.
Yeah.
It comes with trauma shears, a Sharpie, which we can get into that in a little bit, tape. Then you're going to have 5 emergency bandages, 5 tourniquets, 5 gauze, 5 occlusive dressings, and it all comes in this watertight, waterproof ammo can. Super heavy duty. You could probably use it as a weapon in worst case scenario. Opens from both ends, and it also has a soft litter by North American Rescue, which that comes in way handy, especially in a situation where you're not in the military, you don't have your litter with you. The soft litter is way easier to carry people than slinging them over your shoulder.
Yeah.
We also have the Hatter Quit Kit and the Hatter Hip Pouch. The Quit Kit is like the individual first aid kit, right? So that's like the thing you stick in your pocket or you shove in your backpack. That one has a tourniquet, gauze, a bandage, and a occlusive dressing. That's for what you use on yourself, right? That's the thing you don't give up, even if someone else is hurt. You're going to save it just in case. And then you have the Hatter's Hip Pouch, which is the larger kit that comes in the Molly system style nylon kit. There's a couple different colors. I like the red. I don't know. It stands out. People notice it. But that one has 3 tourniquets, 2 gauze. It has, I think, two packs of occlusive dressings, a 6-inch bandage, a 4-inch bandage, roll of tape, trauma shears, Sharpie marker. And then I have a bunch of these, like the Ready Man, which that's the brand right there on the hat. Ready Man makes a bunch of these little survival credit cards. So like they have a survival one that has fish hooks and stuff on it. And I throw a couple of those in there whenever you make a purchase. But yeah.
What's kind of the price point that we're looking at for stuff? I mean, people are going to be interested.
Yeah. So for the big kits, now all my kits come with rats tourniquets, but you can switch them out for cat tourniquets. You can switch them out for soft tees if you want soft tees. The rats tourniquets are the cheaper option at $16 a piece. They just came out with the rats too, same price point. But the cats are $30 a piece. So you can see that it changes a little bit if you're gonna, decide you want a Hatter's Hip Pouch with a cat versus, a rat. But you have the Hatter's Hip Quick Kit, which is the individual first aid kit, right around $45, all the way up to the Doc Box, which is the Moscow kit at around $250. Anything in between, as well as you can buy, a cat tourniquet or a rat's tourniquet on the website right now. Anyway, individually, if you want to build your own kit.
Okay. So you can build your own kit from your shop?
So you can buy your emergency bandages. You can buy your tourniquets, your chest seals and stuff from my Facebook shop. I'm a dealer for these different companies, right? Or you can buy the already pre-made kit. I also do this. It's not in the shop. I take direct messaging on Facebook or in my email, and I will build a kit specific to what your price point is, specific to what your, if you're a range safety officer, or if you just want something to go in your car. Like I can build these specific kits that fit, some of the things you want and fit that price point that you're trying to get into. So customized kits we also do. So that would just require, message me, let me know that's what you want, or get on there, get my email or even my phone number, I believe, is on the Facebook page, so you can check that out too. Give me a call, shoot me a text, and then get some questions, and we can go from there if you want a custom kit.
And I know we're going to be trying to work with the Tallgrass Shooting Sports, and then others to get some classes in the Manhattan area. You're going to be, folks can get a hold of you to schedule classes, but you're going to be out of town for a little bit with the DOD.
Yep. I got some Army training I got to get to, unfortunately. So we're looking at around March, starting classes back up. I'm going to work out my scheduling to see just exactly what I can do, but we're looking at some Saturday classes, maybe even some Friday evening classes, just so we can, open it up to as many people as possible. And it'll be 4-hour classes as well as 8-hour classes.
So if you want to get a hold of Brian, make sure you get on Mad Hatter Medical on Facebook, and you're on Instagram too. So
I am Mad Hatter Med on Instagram, as well as my my Facebook, my Brian Doc Savage Facebook. So my Facebook, you can check out the Doc Savage. Search the Doc Savage on Facebook or Instagram, and you should be able to pull that one up as well. If you really have trouble getting a hold of me, I'm pretty easy to get a hold of. I'm not this ultra popular guy. So just hey, if you just want to talk, let me know.
But so if you have maybe a group that you want to get some training, and maybe do that 4-hour block, maybe do the 8-hour block, however much, get a hold of.
I do corporations, so I do companies as well. Workplace security. We do a little 2-hour workplace security consulting, help form some action plans, and then we do training for employees. And it also, for companies, it makes a great employee appreciation gift, just so you guys know.
Got to put the word in.
Yeah, that's right.
Big Al says, this is a very good live chat. Thanks for doing it, guys. Big Al, thanks for stopping by, man. And I hope that this can be of further help. He asked about active shooter. I don't think he was here when you were talking about that.
So we talked a little bit about it at the beginning, but I do active shooter response type classes. And Michael, it's got to be the Chiefs. Come on. But I do active shooter response classes for corporations. I do them free for churches or places of worship. So I'm no respecter of denomination or anything like that. So if your place of worship wants a 4-hour block of instruction, as well as some security recommendations and emergency response planning, I do places of worship for free. I also do those same type of class plus the security and emergency response training for corporations for a fee. But yes, active shooter response is a big one, especially with from former law enforcement point of view. How a lot of these people in the Kansas gun community are those that carry weapons. Just not trying to out anybody, but I'm just gonna be upfront about that. A lot of people don't realize what they need to do or what they're supposed to do, especially after that situation happens. A lot of people don't know if they're supposed to treat the guy, if they're supposed to touch the guy, anything like that. Or they're just unaware of the fact that they're going to get arrested. Even if they're completely within the law, they're still going to get arrested. It happens. I'm sorry, but as a former law enforcement officer, I respond to a shooting. Well, the guy that's holding the gun in front of the person that's down on the ground is probably going to at least get cuffed until I hear the story, just because. Not saying anything bad about law enforcement. I love all the police officers out there, love the corrections officers out there, but that happens, and it's for safety for everybody. But I do have a concealed carry weapons class where we go over some of that, what to expect from law enforcement, and then also how to treat yourself. That's the big focus of the concealed carry classes. How to put those tourniquets on one-handed, two-handed, upside down, backwards, covered in blood, whatever. That's a big part of that class right there.
So, has anybody got any specific questions? And we're getting, and then we'll get ready to wrap up. I'll wait for a minute and let them come through. But again, in the description below this video, there will be Brian's information to be able to get a hold of him. So please take advantage of that. Get a hold of Brian. Give him some business. Big Al asks or says, we've had one come through 2 years ago that was still teaching hide and place. Now, what he wanted. Okay, I'll be in touch. We have about 400. Okay. Big Al might be in touch with you. Good. Need to get Big Al in touch with you.
Might take me a few days to do 400, but I'll definitely get it done if that's what you guys want to do. I bring in a lot of my fellow
Oklahoma too.
medics. Heck yeah, I'd go to Oklahoma. That'd be fun. I got some family down there actually.
Yeah. Schmidt asks, do you see Todd's comment there?
Yeah. Do you live by UP? UP. What's UP?
Yeah, I'm not.
OP, Overland Park, maybe?
He lives in Manhattan. Todd.
Yeah, I live in Manhattan, Kansas,
so,
but I do travel for work.
Yeah, so he's around here. I live near Manhattan myself, so University Park. We won't go that specific. Yeah, we won't get that specific as to. We're not going to give out on free air where people, their locale is. Maybe if you catch up with him in private, Todd, he'll tell you where he lives.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. We can always hit up a coffee shop. I love coffee. So.
He does Radinas. I've done Radinas with him. So yeah. So any other questions, guys? And then we're going to wrap up. We're coming up on the 9 o'clock hour, so it's bedtime for some. I don't know. Maybe not all.
For me, falling asleep over here. Just kidding.
I'm a night owl, so I stay up. Well, I tell you what. When is your next class coming up that we can know about?
It's probably going to be one of the first, either the first or the last weekend in March is probably going to be the next class. Oh, look, Michael Lynch. You know Goodson. Yeah, I was my first deployment. Scott Goodson and I went on first deployment together. He's a great guy. I love Goodson. Small world. Hey, but yeah. So we're looking at March. It's going to be our first classes. I'm working on a calendar schedule, hopefully to get more set in stone dates. But anyone that's interested in a class, I will work with whatever schedule. Like I do some other stuff. On the side, I do have a full-time gig with the military, and I am writing a book right now that's going to come out here pretty soon. But I will work with your schedule if you want some evening classes, if you want some early morning classes for some unknown reason. I'll work with you. Just shoot me a message, and we'll figure out what time works best, for everybody involved.
So
you're my hero, Rick.
So as we kind of wrap it up again, Mad Hatter, give us your social stuff, your social information.
Yeah. So on Facebook, it's at Mad Hatter Med, Instagram at Mad Hatter Med, or The Doc Savage on Facebook and Instagram. So The Doc Savage or Mad Hatter Med, either one, Facebook, Instagram. Those are my two main social media accounts. So that's what I work mainly with. Especially when I'm doing stuff with this stuff. Just one last point to kind of drive home the importance of stuff like this. 2017, I believe it was either 16 or 17. They did a study about emergency response time by police officers and found that across the United States, the average emergency response time by police was 11 minutes. 11 minutes for police to respond to an emergency situation. You can bleed out from a femoral bleed in 3 to 6 minutes. So let that sink in a little bit. And then also think about how once police get there, especially in an active shooter situation, they're going to have to clear the entire building before they're going to allow emergency medical services to come in. I've cleared an entire school before, and it took us about, it was between 2 and 4 hours to clear an entire single floor elementary school with about 36 officers. So it's extremely important to know how to put on a tourniquet, to know how to improvise a tourniquet, to know how to put on a bandage or a chest seal. Because in those situations, especially the active shooter situation, you're probably not going to get rapid medical response. I'm just going to say you're not going to get rapid medical response to a situation like that. So you just got to rely on yourself. And if you don't have the skills, if you don't have the training, then you have the rest of your life to get it, especially in those situations.
So you are your first responder.
Yep.
You are your own first responder, and I hope people grasp that. I've said that before in training and stuff that I've done, but in classes. But to reinstitute that in people's minds, man, thank you. For people got to realize that they're waiting on the cops to show up, or they're waiting on EMS while they're dying, and that's yeah. We can help ourselves out, and we're blessed today with all this stuff we have. Holy cow!
Absolutely,
man.
Absolutely.
So, and GWOT, Global War on Terrorism has kind of accelerated that, I think.
Yeah.
But also just, I mean, everything from the Boston bombing to just our unfortunate cultural experience, has brought us to where we're at. So, Brian, thank you so much, man. You have.
Thank you.
Man, you've enlightened us to some things, and I hope we, Kansas gun community, you guys take advantage of this. Okay, take advantage of Mad Hatter Medical's his expertise, and you paid for it with your tax dollars.
Yeah.
Just being honest. But he's a good guy. I've enjoyed becoming friends with Brian, and so please make sure that you take advantage of these things that are at your disposal. If you live in and around the Manhattan, Kansas area, or in and around Northeast Kansas, it's closer. But I know Big Al lives in Oklahoma, or wherever. Hey, he said he'd travel.
Absolutely.
So get the doc on the way, man, and get some training. and so I don't have any more to say than that. Be your own first responder and get some training, and get Brian in there. So do you have anything to add?
Just thank you. Thank you for the response. Thank you for coming out and watching us, and thank you for having me on here. I really appreciate it, and it was a lot of fun.
Same here, man. Same here. So Todd says, good talk, guys.
Absolutely.
Yes, remember, he wants me to point out the fact that Fancy Creek Range is closed this weekend due to the weather. That could be a whole nother issue of itself because of extreme weather and how to deal with hypothermia. But,
Oh, yeah.
But yes, it is closed this weekend. So Fancy Creek Range, which is located at the north end of Tuttle Creek Reservoir. So anyhow, get a hold of Mad Hatter Medical, whether it's through Facebook or Instagram. Give him a call even.
Med.
That's right. So, and as always, KS GunCom, y'all, what do we always say? Stay Kansas proud. We'll see you next time.